July 26th edition of PFTPM. 5 for 5 this week. First week back from the beach. Today is the day that the Olympics get started. You know you can enjoy all the coverage on NBC and Peacock. I'm not part of it. I'm one of the very few employees in the entire NBC Universal universe that isn't involved in the Olympics coverage, but we got football going on. It's time to focus on the sport that butters my bread, and it has been doing so for 25 years now. And let's get right to it, because I want to try to keep it fairly brief today, because I have a headache. And it's one of those that just won't go away. Now, I am aware that there are various over-the-counter remedies that you can purchase and take. And I was a little stubborn today. I thought it would just go away on its own. I ultimately took several Advil, probably more than I should have taken. But I wanted to get rid of this headache so I could do PFTPM, get my 5 for 5, and head into the weekend headache-free. So 30 minutes or less maybe today. We'll see how quickly it goes. It won't be as long as the Jerry Jones introductory training camp press conference. He does this every year. It was like 48 minutes yesterday. And it's funny because he's there with Mike McCarthy, the head coach, and Stephen Jones, COO, and various other titles. And Jerry does all the talking. At one point, they were like, does anybody have any questions for Mike? Because he's got to get to practice. And that didn't spark many questions for Mike. And he sat there the whole time until Jerry was done, which is smart because Jerry will say certain things when you're present, and he may say even more when you're not present. It was after the press conference ended, and Jerry went to talk to a group of reporters and kept going. And that was when he made the comments about Bill Belichick and how much he likes him and respects him and yada, yada. And Mike McCarthy didn't get an extension because of what happened against the Packers in the playoffs. And it really is a ton of pressure on Mike McCarthy. We talked about that earlier in the week. It's just a bad situation. And nothing I heard during the press conference, and I watched all of it, and there were some entertaining moments. Apparently, after the press conference, when he was talking to the reporters, he said glory hole again, but then he tried to make a oil and gas reference so it wouldn't be quite as awkward as it was 12 years ago. He used the word psychotic instead of psychic, which I can appreciate. A little Simsism never hurt anyone. I really did, though, come away with an even stronger belief that, and this dates back to the original use of all in at the Senior Bowl in late January. Here we are 6 months later. And he had a thing where he got into the whole, I'm all in. And I'm all in. And that means I'm focused. And that means I'm only, it's not a very good impression, so I'm not going to keep trying. But we know how this got off the rails for the Cowboys. All in the poker chip sense. All in the, we're making the full investment. We're putting all our cards on the table, all the money in the pot, and we're going for it this year. That's how he meant it, because that's how the question was asked by Clarence Hill of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. All in, poker chip style. And it's been bullcrap ever since. And I am more convinced than ever. Jerry Jones doesn't really care about winning the Super Bowl. He trotted out that same old routine yesterday. You'd be surprised about the size of the check that I'd write if it would guarantee winning a Super Bowl. I say baloney. Because I think his motivation is to act like he's tormented by the inability to win a Super Bowl or even get to a Super Bowl or even get to the game to get to the Super Bowl. They haven't been there since 95. I think he acts obsessed with that, so the fans will be. I think his objective and I think his game is step right up. I said this before, huckster, carnival barker, effective. How in the hell have the Cowboys continued to be America's team when they haven't played in an NFC Championship game since January of 1996? Just a few days before I found out my wife was pregnant with my 27-year-old son, that's the last time they played in an NFC Championship game. And they continue to be the biggest draw. They continue to be the team that all the networks covet. When do we get the Cowboys games? Oh, we want the Cowboys. Cowboys versus anyone. Cowboys. Cowboys scrimmage. Cowboys. Rack up the ratings. What they have managed to do by remaining the biggest draw in the NFL despite doing nothing by way of postseason accomplishment, a periodic postseason win. Remember, they went from 96 until 2009 without even a playoff win. It's amazing. they continue to be what they are. That, to me, is far more impressive than winning a Super Bowl. Hell, everybody wins a Super Bowl every year. 1 out of 32 teams is going to win a Super Bowl. One team has managed, despite underachieving, to be America's team, to be the team that everybody wants to watch. Love them or hate them. There's no in between, and people tune in. And that's all because of Jerry Jones' ability as a salesperson. But, and here's the but, I finally figured out what he's doing. And I wonder how many others are going to figure it out. That he really wouldn't write a big check to win a Super Bowl. He really isn't. I mean, really, why would you let yourself? He's won at life. He's got a $450 million boat, for crying out loud. He's worth $14 billion. Why would you let yourself be dragged down for even a day by the struggles of your football team? This is about money, influence, ratings, power, and at the end of the day, he wants people like me to say, it's unbelievable what Jerry Jones has done by way of marketing his team when his team hasn't given him anything to work with. I mean, it's easy to market a consistent champion. The Cowboys are more marketable than the Patriots when the Patriots win their Super Bowl run. So kudos, Jerry Jones. Golf clap. You've done remarkable things as a salesman. And you've got your 3 Super Bowl wins. And you're responsible, along with Jimmy Johnson. I just think this quest, this never-ending search for glory hole that has been going on since 1995, he's found it. Every single day, every single year, every single dollar. Jerry Jones has won. And it doesn't matter if he never wins another Super Bowl. And it doesn't matter if he never wins another divisional round playoff game. He's won in a very, very big way. One quarterback who got his long-term contract after his 3rd season and possibly might be wondering when his financial ship is going to come back in, Josh Allen, Bills quarterback. And it's always a little risky for a guy like general manager Brandon Beane to say a lot of great things publicly about any player, particularly the quarterback. And Brandon Beane is right when he says that the fact that people call Josh Allen overrated shows that there are plenty of idiots still in the world. He's not overrated. And as Brandon Beane says, if anything, he's underrated. The problem is, as Brandon Beane, if you start saying that your quarterback is underrated, you're going to hear from his agents who will say, thank you very much. He's also underpaid, because he is. He is. And the Bills are lucky he hasn't started banging on the door for more, because he needs to. They want him to go forward with a bunch of young receivers who are largely unproven. And it's all on him again. He's at like 43, 44, something like that. And the market's at 55. And they're going to have cap issues. The way they structured it, see, what they did was you got the 3 years where you've got the rookie wage scale contract that allows you to spend your cap dollars on other parts. Then when you sign them to a long-term deal, you structure it so the cap number is low the first couple of years. So it's kind of a continuation. It's not as low as it was, but it's not $43 million a year, even though the guy's making $43 million a year. What happens, you get deeper into it, and the numbers go up and up, and you get some big cap numbers. They had a big cap number this year that they knocked down with a restructuring. A big cap number next year, big cap number the year after. And inevitably what happens, you keep kicking cap dollars deeper into the future. And when the guy finally leaves, the season after he's gone, you've got some gigantic cap charge for a guy who's not on the team anymore. We've seen $35 million for Tom Brady, $28 million for Kirk Cousins this year. There have been some big numbers in the past for guys who aren't there anymore, because once you get to the end of the road, all those cap dollars you've been pushing into the future end up hitting you. Unless you can get a retirement and do like what Drew Brees did. Drew Brees retired after June 1, so the big cap charge came the second year, and they took a smaller charge the first year, but it's still unavoidable. And that's where the Bills are, because they're getting in some big cap numbers with Josh Allen. He's underpaid. He has every right to want more, and they're going to have a cap problem when that happens. But the good news is they have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and that's one of the big keys to being a competitive, contending team. All right, next up. Sunday ticket development. And I had heard that this was percolating. Now, I didn't know that anyone from the NFL's perspective was actually taking it seriously until I saw the report on Thursday night from Ben Fisher of Sports Business Journal. Some owners pondering whether or not some of the $14.1 billion in the Sunday ticket class action lawsuit could be pushed onto the players. I asked the league right after the verdict came in 4 weeks ago yesterday, $4.7 billion, which will be multiplied by 3 if and when the verdict becomes an official judgment. Does this affect a salary cap? And the answer was no. The question is whether or not it affects the cap in the future, because if changes are made to the way Sunday ticket is priced, will it affect the money from YouTube? Will it affect the money from CBS and Fox? If they do it in a way that expands the distribution and viewership of Sunday ticket, will CBS and Fox want to pay less? There is an argument to be made that based upon what the NFL does in response to the verdict, money could go down and that would affect the salary cap in the future. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. But even though the NFL told me the salary cap won't be affected by the verdict, some owners are starting to say, And the argument is fairly simple. We did these deals knowing that we were going to share the revenue with the players. It's roughly 50-50. We got the DirecTV deal. We got CBS and Fox deal. And we engineered it so that we'd get maximum money from all 3 entities. And we pushed DirecTV to price Sunday ticket at a number that would cause most of the fans who would otherwise be interested in buying it to say, I'll just watch CBS and Fox. So maximum value there that came in and got split with the players. The players benefited from the antitrust violation. So why shouldn't they have to participate in the consequences arising from the way the NFL went about maximizing the revenue that was shared between the league and the union? There's some basic superficial appeal. It's not fair for the players to basically abscond with the money that was ill-gotten. The money that they got came from an antitrust violation. Why should the league be the only party that has to pay the money back now that the violation has been established? Superficial appeal. But let's be realistic about how the relationship works. The league and the union have a revenue sharing agreement. The league has full control over maximizing the revenue. The players aren't out there doing these deals. The players don't have any say over these deals. Sometimes the NFL does deals that might not be aimed at maximizing total value by way of dollars and cents. There's nothing the union can do about it. So if you're the union and you weren't the ones who committed the antitrust violation, and nobody came to you and said, are you okay with this? And nobody came to you and said, we're concerned there might be an antitrust violation here. If it blows up in our faces, are you willing to bear some of the pain? The union might have said, no, we're doing it a different way. No, we don't want to take all this money in that gets distributed to players who will have been retired and out of the game by the time we've got to pay money back and have it pick the pockets of players who had nothing to do with any of this. No, we'd rather have real competition. We'd rather have this NFL New Frontier package where every game was on basic cable or network TV, 9-10 games at a time on a Sunday afternoon. We'd rather do that because we don't want to have to take the risk of having to pay the money back. I doubt that they had a chance to do it. And I've looked carefully at the 2020 CBA, and I've got, I think, maybe quibbles with both sides. The NFL knew this lawsuit was out there. If the NFL wanted to slip a little landmine into the language of the CBA to give them an opening, they could have. They didn't. I don't see anything in the CBA that would allow the league to go back to the union, other than like some convoluted, disingenuous argument. The basic language you'd look for, the portions of the CBA where it would be expected to show up, I don't see anything that would give the NFL a leg to stand on to say you have to bear part of the responsibility for this $14.1 billion. On the flip side, though, Sunday Ticket has been an antitrust violation hiding in plain sight since 1994. I sensed something was wrong with it the moment I realized you can't buy a single team package. You got to pay for the whole thing. Even though they market it as displaced fans get to watch their favorite team when they can't see them in the markets where they live. That's how it's marketed, but you got to buy the whole thing. The union could have put language in there to protect it, some sort of indemnity, giving the league the full discretion and autonomy to go out. And I haven't checked the CBA for this, but I don't think it's in there. I might have to go back and recheck, but it would be something along the lines of the league has the power to go out and negotiate and finalize deals aimed at generating the revenue that is shared, but the NFL Players Association is not responsible for anything that might happen in the process of negotiating and executing those deals, up to and including antitrust liability. Now, look, nothing stops the league from trying to squeeze the players to share some of this. And every year the salary cap is negotiated. And if the NFL is going to drive a hard bargain, what can you really do? See, that's the thing. When it comes down to it, if they have to pay, I was talking to somebody this week who said, you know what? Everybody connected to the NFL is going to feel this if the $14.1 billion has to be paid. They're not just going to pull $440 million out of their own couch cushions. They're going to make other people pay. Everyone, players, networks. The guy I was talking to said, you'll even have to pay for it. It's like, bullshit, I ain't paying for it. I'm getting a check, baby. I'm getting money out of this if it ultimately is upheld on appeal. So I'm not surprised that the NFL is kicking this around. And it doesn't hurt to try. You file a grievance. It doesn't cost any money to file the grievance. You got to pay for your lawyers, but I could see him try it. And if I'm the union, I'd say, fine, do it. Let's go. Let's go. If you're going to huff and puff, we're going to make you blow our house down. Go prove that you're entitled to this. And go out there and create some more negative press, not that anybody other than me is paying attention to it, about how you guys screwed your fans, took advantage of your most ardent and avid and zealous fans and overcharged them so that most of your fans who weren't quite as zealous would just watch what's available on their local TV. Go ahead. Let's keep picking at this wound for the next 5 years. Let's keep this a thing. Let's make sure that more and more people become aware of how you've screwed your best fans, because that's what they did. And, you know, I haven't gotten a bit of blowback from the NFL about any of the stuff I've said about Sunday Ticket in the last month. And I'm kind of surprised. But you know what? I haven't said anything that's inaccurate. Sunday Ticket was a walking, talking, living, breathing, crapping, puking antitrust violation. And I think they knew it from the get-go. And they got away with it for 30 years. It's a win for the NFL. You know, and I can't think of a good example right now, but like, you know, there's this thing that we're doing that we're probably not the best, but you know what? Whenever it hits the fan, whatever the punishment is won't be nearly as bad as what it should be. I feel like they accepted 30 years ago they were going down that path. And now the chickens have come home to roost. And they still might win. They still might win. They still might not have to pay anything. We'll see. Next big event in court, Wednesday, as the judge takes up the NFL's request to throw out the whole case and give the NFL judgment as a matter of law. All right, let's answer some of these questions and wrap this thing up, because the Advil haven't kicked in yet. I need to supplement and augment the Advil with something a little stronger, something in liquid form and not NyQuil. All right, questions. Cousin Vin, what's something about the industry that people get wrong all the time? Wow. I got a couple of thoughts about that. I'm going to defer that until I have a chance to really think about it some more, because there are some things that the average fan doesn't really understand, but I don't know that I want to go down that path just now. Brian Roll, could Dallas, Houston, and San Francisco eventually have two teams if other cities decide to not fund the stadiums? I don't know. I don't think Dallas wants a second team. Jerry Jones doesn't want to share that stadium. He doesn't want anyone else horning in on the Cowboys' turf. Anytime there's talk about maybe a team going to San Antonio, remember the Raiders were looking into that. The Texans and the Cowboys don't want that. And the mayor of Dallas wants to put a team like at the Cotton Bowl. Jerry Jones doesn't want that. I think it's far more likely that we would see teams moving into small markets with smaller stadiums than to have two teams in big markets, but not so big that they would readily welcome in a second team. Another Bay Area team, I mean, hey, if the Raiders and 49ers didn't hate each other, they would have shared the 49ers stadium. That would have made a ton of sense. Now, look, this whole Vegas thing, they kind of tripped into a pot of gold with it. But because the 49ers and the Raiders had a horrible relationship, the 49ers built their stadium, and there was never a thought they were going to share it. So, I don't know, maybe, possibly. If owners keep getting the door slammed in their face, teams have to go somewhere. I saw today that the clock is ticking on the Buccaneers and their stadium situation. 2028, their lease expires. They could be a team that pulls up the stakes and moves unless they get what they want. Hey, you got to give us what we want, or else eventually there's going to be a community that plays the or else card, and that's going to be that. We'll see how it goes. I mean, Kansas City, Missouri, Jackson County, Missouri, already down that path. They may try to put the toothpaste back in the tube, but they're facing losing the team, even though the Chiefs would just be going across the border. All right. This is Andy Matty. Do you think the Dean Spanos ego will get in the way and ruin what Jim Harbaugh is trying to build for the Charger franchise? I don't know that the Spanos, I don't know what the problem is with the Chargers. With the Chargers, they're the Rosanna-Danas of the National Football League. Every year, it's always something. That's a very dated reference that I use from time to time. And those of you who are my age or a little older or a little younger would appreciate it. It goes back to the early days of SNL. But injuries have been an issue. And then if it's not that, it's this. It's coaching decisions, the nonsensical aggressiveness that we saw from Brandon Staley. I think Jim Harbaugh is going to be great. And the best thing they could do is get out of the way and let Jim Harbaugh do his thing. Lord Davey. A lot of Cowboys chatter today. These three main guys are going to get done before the season. Dak, Micah, CD. I think CD Lamb gets his deal because he held out. Micah Parsons isn't going to get anything because he didn't hold out, and he's not holding in by any indication that I've seen. He's content to wait his turn. He shouldn't be. And it's weird to see, first of all, people in the media who decide to write a whole article based upon one of my opinions. First of all, thanks for the pub. Second of all, do you really have nothing else to write about that you got to write a whole article about something that a dumbass like me said? And yeah, Micah Parsons should have held out. He plays a position with a heightened risk of injury. He's far more valuable to the Cowboys than what he's going to make this year. He should have held out. But, so many of these fringe sites that cater to the fans of a given team, they take that team position. And there's so much of that going on in the NFL. I haven't written about this yet, but the NFL Players Association wants to restrict access to locker rooms out of privacy for the players. I can understand why players would be hostile to the media, because the media, in many respects, is hostile to them. And especially these team-specific blogs and websites that cater to the fans of the team. So just like the fans, they're rooting for the laundry. Just like the fans, they're against the players. Shut up and play. Be happy with what you have. Why are you complaining? You're already overpaid and you want more? That kind of stuff gets old. But anyway, I'll push back against all of that and say Micah Parsons is underpaid and he should want more and he shouldn't wait his turn. But he's not going to get a deal because he is waiting his turn. CeeDee's going to get the deal, and I think the other two won't. And with Dak, it's going to play out until after the season. And he's going to have to decide, is he going to leave or is he going to stay? Plain and simple. Once he gets an idea of what else is out there. And I think this is a case where the Cowboys may want him to know what's out there as early as possible so they can understand whether or not they're going to keep him or they have to find somebody else. I think they hope that there's a number, more than whatever they'll offer, that he'll say no to. And that they'll get the benefit of that gap. But there'll be a number above that where he says, "See you later, Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to go play for a new team." This one is from Blues fan base, and I can't tell whether this person is being sarcastic or not. For someone that hasn't followed closely, what's this NFL Sunday ticket lawsuit you keep mentioning so that I can understand more? I mean, we've been all over it. And what you can do to get a full understanding of everything that's happened in the case, you go to the front page of PFT. We have a separate tab we've created with all of our Sunday ticket stories where you can just scroll through them and you can get up to speed. Go all the way to the bottom and work your way up. The latest one is at the top, and they work their way backward. But if it was a real question, and for those of you who haven't been paying attention, and I always hate, and I remember when I was a kid, I always felt horribly inadequate when I was trying to follow the news for the first time because the story's been around for a while. They just assume you have a certain baseline understanding of it, and you try to read it, and it's like, I don't know what this is. What's this? So, Sunday ticket case, very simple. The NFL has a broadcast antitrust exemption for the purposes of selling its games to over-the-air TV. And at the time they set this up, it was a given, supposedly, as uttered before Congress by former Commissioner Pete Rozelle. It would only apply to over-the-air, three-letter network free TV. And any pay TV system, it would not apply. Since then, the NFL just acted like it exists for cable games, for satellite games, for streaming games. They act like the exemption still applies. Well, it doesn't. According to the jury in LA, doesn't apply to satellite, doesn't apply to DirecTV. So when the 32 teams come together under the auspices of the NFL and sell these rights and require them to be priced at a certain level, that's an antitrust violation. That's what it's about. And it's also about the most avid fans of the NFL being overcharged by the league through an antitrust violation so that they could get Sunday ticket because the NFL wanted to protect the relationships with CBS and Fox. At the end of the day, if this stands, you're going to get a check if you subscribe to Sunday ticket from 2011 through 2022. Let's see. NFL fan with the Rob Lowe wearing the NFL hat as the avatar. Raiders are a complete mess between no quarterback, a recently promoted interim coach with no experience and $20 million plus in debt, and doing Mahomes frog jokes when he's 10-2 against them. Can they actually get more than 5 wins? I find it extremely unlikely. The thing that the Raiders and the Chargers and the Broncos will have going against them for the next decade, if not longer, is that Patrick Mahomes is in their division. I think the Chargers are going to give the Chiefs hell this year. I don't think the Broncos and the Raiders are ready to. And I think the thing to watch is Davante Adams getting traded at the deadline, maybe to the Jets if they're any good this year, if they're competitive, if they contend, if not to the Jets, someone else. Because next year, Davante Adams' salary goes to $36 million. I don't see him staying with the Raiders after this year. Once it's clear the Raiders are done this year, if it's clear, and remember the trade deadline is the Tuesday after week 9 now. If it's clear, I can see him getting traded. But yeah, between Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, are they going to be good enough to contend? Are they going to be good enough to compete? They responded well to Antonio Pierce last year, and we advocated for Pierce to get an opportunity. But I thought they were going to take a quarterback. I thought they were going to, and they got, they kind of got screwed. With the 13th overall pick, 6 quarterbacks were gone by the time they were on the clock. So it made it hard to go out there and address the most important position on the team. All right, what else do we have here? Chad Weichert, will anyone wear a Guardian cap in a game? Once I saw the picture of the Chargers with that skin over top of the Guardian cap, I thought, you know what? It's just a matter of time. Just a matter of time. And why wouldn't you wear it? It's safer. And it doesn't look as bad as I thought it would look when you put that little cap over top of the Guardian cap. So I think players will. I absolutely think they will. And because the Chargers are practicing as they play and they're out there with those Guardian caps on, with the skin over top of it, I think you're going to have players who have fewer qualms about wearing it in a game. Now that they've seen it, now that they've experienced it, now that they're around it, they may be more willing to go out there and wear it during a game. K. Trinata is elite. I know you said the franchise tag isn't going anywhere, but wouldn't the jump to 20 games be the time for players to make that push? Also, is there any endpoint at the moment for the extra third rounders for staff promotion, or does it seem that will be a forever thing? I know that there are some teams out there that grumble from time to time when there's a minority candidate who becomes a GM or a coach with another team, and the team that previously employed the person gets a third round pick. Look, the NFL has had for decades, an issue when it comes to diversity. The people who run the league versus the people who play, the proportions are way off, and the NFL has admitted it. They've admitted it. After Brian Flores filed his lawsuit in February of 2022, Troy Vincent admitted it. So even if this isn't a perfect solution, it's a hell of a lot better than the way it used to be. As it relates to giving up the franchise tag in exchange for 20 games, the NFL is never, ever, ever giving up the franchise tag. Even if the NFL would go to the union and say, hey, will you share the $14 billion with us, 50%? We'll take away the franchise tag. I don't think they would. I don't think the NFL would, because the franchise tag allows teams to keep their best players without having to worry about how in the hell are we going to keep our best players. That's the fail-safe, and it becomes the leverage in the long-term contract talks, and it becomes the thing that keeps a guy around. That's why the Cowboys are twisted in knots. They can't tag Dak Prescott after this year. That's why Caleb Williams wanted that provision in his deal with the Bears. And that's why the Bears said no. They don't want to give up the franchise tag. That is the way to keep everyone's pay in line. Because when the best of the best players can't go out and get market value, there isn't that rising tide that lifts all boats. All right, let's see what else we have here. Manuel Villa, have you had any crazy fan interactions? You know, every once in a while I wonder if somebody's going to come up and punch me in the face, because I'll say on social media, if I ever see you anywhere, I'm going to come punch you in the face. I don't take that seriously, which probably means I'm going to get punched in the face soon. I fall into that category where, for the most part, the reaction I get is a look of vague recognition, but they don't know why they recognize me. Like, aren't you that guy from that thing that I can't remember what that thing is, because you're completely out of context. So, and I'll see when the wheels are turning, and I'll see when they start to figure it out. And sometimes they'll say something to me, and I don't get approached enough for me to be like, oh God, here we go. And I understand, hey, look, these are the folks that keep the lights on. We got a lot of people out there that read the site. We got a lot of people that watch the show. I try to respond to all the emails I get. I can't, but I respond to plenty of them. And if I see anybody, I mean, without question, you see me out somewhere, come up and talk to me. I'll say hello. I'll take the picture. I'll sign whatever you want me to sign. If you want me to make it worth less than whatever it's already worth by putting my name on it, I'll do it. Good mood, bad mood, I don't care. And it really is dumb. And I give this advice all the time. Like, if you're a player and somebody comes up to you and wants to take your, and it's different. I mean, there are certain moments where I'm like, can I just be with my family or whatever? But still, the time that it takes to comply is roughly the same amount of time that it takes to say no. And if you comply, you got somebody who's going to be happy forever. And anytime your name comes up with their friends, family, whoever, they're going to say what a great guy this was. Flip it around. If you act like an asshole for the rest of their life, anytime they, oh, screw that asshole. Let me tell you about him. So it's really a simple proposition, folks. If you're fortunate enough to be somebody that folks happen to recognize, whether it's I know immediately who you are, or it's like are you? Either way, embrace it. Shit, it is a small price to pay for the life we get to lead. So, and also, again, it doesn't happen enough for me that I've gotten to the point where I just enjoy it. It's nice it's nice for me to see that there actually are people out there who read this shit and watch this shit and actually pay attention to this shit. That shit makes me happy. Let's just call it right there. I'm sorry if I didn't get to your question. Ask it next week. We'll be back Monday and hopefully every day next week. Now, we're balancing things with the Olympics. We understand our place until the Olympics are over, but we think we've set it up so we can do PFTPM every day between now and the end of the Olympics. And you know what happens after the Olympics end? You know what happens on Monday, August 12th. You know who will be back. Oh, yes, we will be back and better than ever, or not. August 12th, PFT Live, 7 a.m. Eastern. It's going to be here before you know it. Check us out around the clock at profootballtalk.com. Camps are open everywhere. We've got a ton of content. Everybody's working really hard, and I appreciate it very much so that, I don't have to work quite as hard. But I'll be working over the weekend. I still got to read that damn DirecTV transcript. I'm going to be working on that. I'm going to be following everything that's happened, and it isn't work. It's great. Football's back, and it's fun, and before you know it, the season starts. So thanks again. See you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.